Call this meeting to order due to some technical difficulties, we're late, but it'll be at 9:13. We have an 11-item agenda. Open meeting law requirements are met by proper posting. I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Move to adopt.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. You received a copy of the January 27th minutes. I'll entertain a motion to adopt those minutes as printed.
So moved.
Second. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carried. Pat, we need an update on the horticulture position.
Well, yes. Well, yes. Thank you for the reminder. What will we do when you leave? We'll never remember to use our mics. The first candidate, after she'd been on for a week, said, I can't do this. I can't decide if it was the winter weather or just moving that far or whatever. So she resigned, but because we had been, had a second candidate and we were that close, I went and offered it to the second candidate, and the Search and Screen Committee had said, this is our preference, but we like both of them. And he accepted, and he will start the 28th. And his name is Jacob Kluza. And he trained at North Dakota State and River Falls.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a stroke of luck.
Boy, yeah. His response back was, I'd really like to, but I haven't been able to find any place to live. And before I knew it, there were all these, everybody on the team shared information, so he was able to find a place, and we're looking forward to it.
Hooray.
Huzzah!
You say the 27th he starts?
28th,
28th,
starts on the Monday.
okay. Educator reports. Who wants to go first? Adam.
Hello, Adam Trenzo, youth and family educator. You all have my report, so I'll be brief. We just started our Juntos program after many years of preparation. Monica Komorowski-Lopez is one of our extension educators here, very part-time, but this is her focus, and she is Latina. And one of the key things that we've been working on is outreach to underserved audiences, part of kind of the county strategic plan, part of our strategic plan in extension. And we had 7 families show up, so low 20s of youth and parents working together to make sure their kids don't drop out of high school, that they explore their opportunities after high school, and just kind of make a community of people who want to get together. This will be part of a 4-H program, so they'll be able to be a part of 4-H, see what all that has to offer, so that it's open to everyone in the county. Also doing some direct education STEM programs with various after-school programs. In the family education side, Wednesday evenings I'm hosting Raising a Thinking Child education sessions. So teaching parents how to kind of work their kids through thinking through problems rather than just telling them what to do or what not to do. Can help with a lot of behavioral issues. Beyond that, still a lot of work with various coalitions, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, the Alliance for Mental Illness, the Reentry Coalition, Resilient Trauma-Informed Communities, and the Alliance for Youth. And the main goal of being a part of all of these is having a very broad kind of environmental view, whether it's affecting policy or just bringing a lot of people together to solve pretty entrenched problems. It's something that's a very long-term investment of an educator's time, but it's starting to yield some pretty strong results from that. Going from that, we just recently received a $60,000 grant for the state level. About $6,000 of that can come to us for this Latino outreach programming. And then various of the alliances have brought in money to the county as well. And then on the extension side of things, one of the leaders of the Fatherhood Program Initiative for Extension the Juntos, which is the Latinx programming, and then some expanding access work, helping to plan a youth conference, and part of the statewide Latino task force.
Before you ask questions, we do need to make a note that we're paying for some meals with local catering companies. We just need to make a note of that in the minutes so that when we take the bill down to the office, it gets paid. Do you have questions? He's doing great stuff.
Appreciate the hard work. Steve?
Okay, so you've got my report there. Been working with Western Tech College and Extension in La Crosse and Vernon counties, putting on some crop production programs. They've been hybrid. What's that? You didn't? Oh. Okay. Okay, so that's what I've been doing. So we had about 40 people attend the program, either virtual or in person, on Tuesday. And we've been bringing in state specialists. This has been a once-a-month meeting. Been bringing in state specialists. So this last meeting, we had Rodrigo Worley and Nick Arneson. They're weed control scientists from UW-Madison. They talked about herbicide availabilities, different strategies for controlling herbicide-resistant weeds and so forth. And then Caitlin Davis from La Crosse County discussed robust land leases and some of the little nuances of leasing cropland. So we have one more of those sessions coming up in March 3rd. And Carrie Lebowski, she's a soil fertility specialist from UW-Madison, will talk about nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium in particular, some of the micronutrients also. What farmers are facing this year is close to a 4 times increase in fertilizer prices compared to last year. There's even some availability questions, whether they'll even be able to get it or not. So that's at the first, I call these meetings Crop College. I thought that sounds like an impressive title. At the first session that we had in January, I talked about different soil fertility strategies. There's some additives out there that don't really work as advertised. I touched on those. And also some of the strategies a person can use to reduce rates and not necessarily affect yields. Carrie Lebowski will talk more about that in March. And so that's kind of been the bread and butter of my programming. Pesticide applicator training, it will be a total of 6 sessions for that. The first one was in November. So what's happened is with COVID the last 2 years, everybody's license has been grandfathered in. The license to apply restricted use pesticides on your own land lasts for 5 years. So the last 2 years, people were just grandfathered in because they could not get together. We couldn't get together and train them. So between Jackson and Trempealeau County, there's roughly 200 farmers on the list that need their licenses. So I did 6 sessions. Looks like everybody's going to try to cram into the last 2 or 3. But I don't know how that's going to happen. But I've been busy doing 2 of those sessions each month, and so I've got one coming up next week in Black River Falls, and then another one in March, and then we're done with that. Let's see, what else was there in my report that didn't show up?
It's in your Jackson County report. It's in your Jackson County report. The transitioning farm ownership.
Oh, yes. So worked with Caitlin Davis, La Crosse County. So the way extension is now, we've got specialization. So mine is crops and soils. Caitlin Davis is farm management. So we work together with Kathy Kulig from Compeer Financial to talk about farm succession. So passing the farm from one generation to the next. And so we did that. We had a good turnout for that. And some of the fair versus equal, if you take a farm and divide it up between all 4 of your children, there's not a viable farm operation left. So how do you give it to the 1 or 2 individuals that are going to continue the farm, and what do you do with 1, 2, or 3 that are not active in the farm? So that's kind of a sticking point on some of that. So that was discussed in there also. I've got some test plot work that I'm working on putting together for spring, looking at organic alfalfa establishment, different companion crops to plant with the alfalfa, and how we can help people get good alfalfa established. This will also work into conventional agriculture because we've got a lot of herbicide-resistant weeds out there. So the 2 main herbicides that are used in conventional alfalfa is glyphosate. We've got glyphosate-resistant weeds. We've got 2 other options. We've got Pursuit and Raptor. There's a lot of resistant weeds to those. Those 2 herbicides work on 1 enzyme within a plant, and when you work on only 1 enzyme, you can have a real high chance of getting a resistant weed. So some of this work I'm doing in organic should translate into conventional, where herbicides and that aren't a good option. So putting that together with a farm just right outside of Black River Falls. So that's exciting. Yeah, so any questions? Yes?
Could you, for the uninitiated in the room,
Yep.
tell me the nuances of leasing acreage? Because to me, seems pretty straightforward.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of leases are just, across the fence at the kitchen table. So I lease my land to Kellen. Yeah, you want to rent my land? We agree on a price. Okay. Kellen farms my land for 10 years. And then something happens. Well, we've got an issue. Well, how do we decide that? So they call the extension office and I say, well, Kellen plowed through my waterway. Well, what does your lease say? I don't have a lease. Well, Kellen should have known I wanted that waterway. Well, then I asked Kellen, what happened? Well, so that's part of it. Then the other part is that there's some state laws regarding leasing land. And it's in the state statute, you have to give a 90-day notice before the next cropping season starts. So when does a cropping season start? Well, as a farmer, I buy my seed in January. So my cropping season starts in January, where the next guy down the road, his cropping season starts in April because he applies fertilizer in April. So you've got all of this out there. There's a lot of different, when crop prices get high, all you need is one person to go out and start bidding up rent. Then all of a sudden, every landowner, of course, wants the highest rent they can get. And so you've got all these issues at play in there, and what could be a simple transaction across the kitchen table all of a sudden becomes complicated. And so, a written lease. Well, what is a written lease? Is it the back of this paper that Kellen and I both scribble on and sign? Yes. Or is it a multi-page lease drawn up by an attorney? Yes. So there's a lot of different nuances in there. What's a fair price for rent? My farm is blow sand. Your farm is good flat black ground. Well, he's getting 200 an acre. Kellen, you got to pay me more, because everybody owns the best land. Nobody owns junk ground. And it just, there's a lot of different It's one of the more complicated things. I dread getting the phone call, what's land renting for? Because I tell the landowner, well, this is the average from USDA surveys, and that's all I tell them. And then the renter calls up, why did you tell them that land was renting for X amount? Do you know their farm? No, I don't. And so then I explain, this is what I told them. And it's just, so the more education we can get out there and get some of that. And whenever I'm discussing land rent, like in an educational program, or even with a phone call, I tell the people, there's a lot that goes into what you get for land rent. The last time crop prices were high, I got a phone call from out of state somewhere, and they asked what land in Trempealeau County was renting for. We had the whole discussion. They said, well, in the Wall Street Journal it said land in central Illinois was renting for X. I said, this is not central Illinois. So then I asked them, I says, well, how, why are you calling me? Do you own land in Trempealeau County? Yeah, my siblings and I own, Grandpa's land in Trempealeau County. And, I haven't been back to Trempealeau County in, 25 years or something. And it's, so there's just all kinds of little weirdness that goes with it, so.
What is the current average?
Don't put that out here. We don't need that. We don't need
Turn your
that.
mic off or write it on a
This
piece
is
of
the-
paper.
this is on
It's like 127 or 110 or something. Jackson County's actually a little bit higher than Trempealeau County. You've got two neighborhoods, not two neighbors, two neighborhoods in Jackson County where they really go at it. It's relatively good ground within those small areas, and they go at it, and it brings the average up. But yeah.
There's a lot of variability with it.
A lot of it.
I mean,
Well,
There's a lot of factors that go into that too, whether it's all 2 to 5 acre fields or if you've got one, square 80 or something.
yeah.
That can change the value of something too, and that's something that's pretty commonly forgot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, surrounded by woods or nice open land, I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
And the majority of
that's
The-
another
Yeah.
factor,
the
yeah.
majority of landowners that are renting out land have it's either been a very long time since they operated equipment or they never have. So they don't understand the big fields or the multiple small fields and that. And then soil types can change from one corner of a farm to another, I mean, drastically. So, yeah.
Doug?
Irrigation makes a big difference too. I live in an area that got 7 wells.
Sure.
Mile radius.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep, makes a big difference.
And I was told this some years ago, if you got to pay over $200 an acre for rent, you might as well own the land.
Yeah. But land now is selling for
Oh, yeah, what you
3,000 to
get. Yeah, what you
10,000
get.
an acre, so it's,
Depending on how many big bucks you got on it.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Well, that can make a difference too.
yeah.
Silliness. Anything else for Steve?
Very good.
Next.
Good morning. April, the Foodwise Coordinator for Jackson and Trempealeau. So we haven't talked since November, so there's a lot of things in my report. I'll just give you the highlights. So we transition our fiscal year at the end of October. So a lot of, year-end things happen in that November, December timeframe. So had our conversation with state staff. What were our goals? How did we accomplish them? And then moving into our fiscal year 22 and what we were looking at accomplishing. And then we're actually transitioning now into our fiscal 23 planning in this February timeframe. So we're always in this almost like ahead of the game planning for what we're going to be doing. So right now I'm currently working on our community assessment, our needs assessment for Jackson and Trempealeau, identifying where we've got gaps and overlaps and what we can do moving into our fiscal 23 programming. We've been doing some very successful programming with our Head Start parents and families. We had a lesson in November and in December, and now we're gearing up for a March and an April program. A lot of work in planning the PowerPoint. This is all virtual, which has been very successful. We can meet with 4 centers at one time. So planning those PowerPoints and then making them bilingual. We've offered the second session in Spanish using one of our colleagues in FoodWise, which has been magical to be able to offer it specifically in the Spanish language and not having to, have English and then pause and then have it in Spanish. So that's been a lot of work to prep those materials and have the promotional materials, and well worth it. So in November, we had 9 caregivers attend from 3 centers. In December, we had 7 caregivers from 2 centers. So really good attendance. Historically, it's been single digits when we've had them in person. So that's telling us the virtual is helpful for families. They're able to do whatever they need to do for, meals and the kids participate. They'll go, oh, Miss Sandy or Miss April, because we have 4K lessons with the kids. And then we have the family element too. So gearing up for those, getting our next ones going. And then Sandy has been doing some amazing work with food pantries. Kind of a pivot in our programming. We're not doing in-person education at the food pantry because of how the pantries are set up. It's either a drive-in, you get a box or a bag, and off you go. So there isn't a time for us to do a 20-minute lesson. So we're doing more of an indirect. And Sandy's doing an amazing job at, figuring out how we can help support the pantries in providing what they do. So looking at, how can we help our Hispanic audience get more of the foods that are culturally appropriate for them. She's been a very active part, not only locally, but also on a bigger level with Feed My People, which is the food pantry, the food bank that we get our food from. And so helping at trainings and networking out with the food pantries. Also she's doing a lot of programming with our schools. So she finished up her Arcadia Elementary, did kindergarten and second, and is now doing lessons with Independence, the kindergarten, second, 4K, and 5th grade, and doing some really cool things with the after-school program in Arcadia and Whitehall. And then gearing up for our spring programming. So keeping very busy out and about in the community on both sides, helping people be nutritiously conscious of what they're putting in their bodies.
Any questions for April?
Yeah.
Doug?
What about your increase in food pantries? Are they being used more?
So it ebbs and flows. So we had a little bit of a decrease when the families were getting the child tax credit amounts. We saw a little bit of a decline. That now has sunsetted, and so it's too soon to say because we're only in February to see how that's impacted. So different things ebb and flow. Food share dollars increased for a bit of time, and now those are kind of leveling off. So you start to see impacts at the food pantry, increase then because of those different things that are available. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question.
I will share, Andrea's at a national convention that they sent her to share some work that she's working on with the team. They had to postpone their winter leadership camp. I think they pushed it back to March, early March. And the thing she's been working on as part of a regional team, but it absolutely impacts her local work, is essentially bylaws and policies for 4-H clubs. And they're putting together some materials to help clubs do a better job of being organized and providing leadership opportunities for their kids in a way that makes sense. How many of you have actually ever memorized all of Robert's Rules of Order? Yeah, one. And
I'm impressed.
and let me tell you, as somebody who works with groups, it's like you can make up your own rules. Everybody reverts to Roberts, but it's like they're complicated. So how do you make it more chunkable for kids to use effectively? And Melissa would have loved to be with you today, but she's doing poll worker training and hands-on poll worker training at the town of Burnside. So those ladies are going to learn how to use a machine, gosh darn it. But she's been staying real busy, a lot more clerk and election inspector training this year than she thought she'd be doing. Because it's, she thought she'd be doing it later in the year, but she is doing it. They're working on their pharmacies in rural areas study. And, final year, doing some egg plastics recycling for the state, finishing up or continuing the water testing program for homeowners. And she wanted me to know that she actually had an abstract accepted for the International Silage Conference. It's about egg plastics. Guess where it's supposed to be? China. So that won't be on your dollar, trust me. If she gets accepted, it's like, I'm sorry, Dean Martin, you need to fork over the bucks. So she's staying very busy, working hard, producing good things for the county. And if you actually ask questions, I might be able to answer them. That's the joy of community development work. Everybody's afraid to ask a question.
Anybody? Number 7 on the agenda, museum updates. I do not see Nancy. Can you handle that, Pat?
I believe we submitted the bill. We submitted the bill. And we're just we used to have this on the agenda all the time in case she showed up. And because of last month's, we're just going to keep it on the agenda.
Okay. Number 8, Department Director and possible action. The discussion involves, as we all know or should know, tomorrow is Derek's last day here. Will be sorely missed. And
Give you a little room.
I understand that the job has been posted. Applications are accepted through the 22nd of this month?
So the deadline will be Monday, February 21st at midnight that
21st.
night. So.
Okay. And then we will go from there once we see how many applications we get.
Correct. So if we could set a date to review those applications and then set a date for interviews, that would be preferable.
Do you have any suggestions on,
I do.
review can happen basically anytime after the deadline on the 21st.
Correct. And then once we set the review date, give us about a day to contact candidates. And then we usually like to give candidates about a week heads up. So not sure if the 22nd, 23rd, 24th to review, if any of those dates work for the committee.
Did you want this all available if possible?
If possible, yes.
Can I start it out by telling you the only day that works for me?
Sure.
And then if it doesn't work,
Okay.
at least that gives us a date to start with, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So Thursdays are my only day right now.
Okay.
Because of some reasons. And that might be an issue because I'm on jury duty, so I might not be available anyway. So maybe I should just keep my mouth shut.
after,
But if it was going to be, it would have to be on a Thursday.
Sure.
24th sounds good to me.
That works for me.
9
And then if I'm not here, I'm on jury duty, and so be it.
9
I guess
o'clock.
that's the way it is.
9 o'clock on the 24th in the county boardroom.
Made it easy that way.
That works. Thank you. And would the following Thursday work for interviews?
It would. Or is that a problem for you, Colin?
I think,
That's March 3rd.
yeah, I'm flying home that day, so
Okay.
probably not. gonna
Probably not.
work for me.
The following week, early.
the following Thursday? Do you want to wait that long, or do you want to push it up? And I can, let me see what else. I can do Tuesday. What does that mean?
Tuesday the 1st.
But you'll be gone on Tuesday.
Tuesday, first time gone,
How about Friday the 4th?
yeah. That can work for me.
Which day?
Friday the 4th.
I won't know on Tuesday. What, you mean the first of March,
March 4th.
Huh?
March 4th, that'd be a Friday.
I'm all right there.
You're all right?
What did Doug say
He's okay. That would work for him.
on that Friday? We would do morning?
We absolutely could. I'm available all day.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
I'll make something change.
You want to do 9 o'clock?
Sure.
Okay.
But that would be only if the Thursday didn't, is that where we're at? Or do you think you might need 2 days?
So we'll need 2 days. We'll need 1 day to review the applications and choose our candidates, and then we will need a day for interviews.
The other day, I understand. So the reviewing, we'll know the time frame on that one.
Right. Yep, we'll be able to plan that ahead.
It's pretty hard to do it flip-flop, isn't it?
It is.
Let's go for it.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, in the meantime, we need an interim director of the department. Derek has recommended Rick Joten for that position. I spoke with Rick last week, and he has reluctantly agreed to step into the position, as long as I promised him that we will not dally in our attempts to fill the position. The county kind of has a history of dragging their feet sometimes, and this is not one of those times where we need to do that. So, I will make the motion to appoint Rick Joten as the interim director starting Monday.
I'll second
Sure, I
that.
got a question to ask.
Yep.
Are you going to, he's going to have more responsibilities. Is his wages going to go up, or is it going to stay the same?
The
Or have you-
wages will increase, and I had talked to Krista about that before I went and talked to Rick about the position. So, the position for the time that Rick is in the position of interim director will go to step 1 of grade
11.
11.
Yep.
And if I remember right, that's $29.72 an hour.
I don't have that on me. I apologize.
Well,
That's pretty close.
But, yeah.
I better check out my notepad here. Yep, $29.72. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carried. Number 9 is department goals and possible action. And to be specific, we're talking about the digital media department, its goals, and I will give you my opinion as briefly as I can. We are moving in a particular direction. We are expanding our programming. We have a lot of things that are present online. And with our current staffing levels, it's causing a lot of stress with the staff. Now, as of Monday, we will have 1 less staff member present to do that job, which is a problem in and of itself. But I see this going in a direction that I believe will only expand as the public becomes more familiar with it. I was telling Derek earlier, I've been getting more positive comments about the digital media department and the programs that are available online and on cable than I've gotten on any other topic as long as I've been here, as an employee and as a county board member. I think it's a service to the taxpayer that is positive and generates a lot of interest, and I think we need to continue in that direction. However, the county has also had a habit of, when the county needs to shave off dollars from the budget, this department is one of the first places they go. The goal of expanding programming does not fit with the county's current attitude. I believe as technology advances, we're going to be more dependent on people with information technology knowledge, and we're going to need to expand the number of people that work in that department. I was told that when Wade Britzius was running this department, he had 5 staff members. So it is,
Some part-time, some full-time. Yeah, some part, some full, but that's what I was told when I came in here.
so, just attrition has whittled that down to 3 full-time currently. And I think if we want to continue, we need to change that. And nothing happens overnight, but I believe we need to work in that direction where we expand the staff for the digital media department, and we start, well, if we continue with the online programming, we're going to need more involvement from IT, and I don't think there's any way around that.
No.
Either one of those goals. I had talked to Tim Robertson this morning, and he was in perfect agreement that if we're going to continue the online stuff, his department's going to have to get more involved. And, we can't really predict with a lot of accuracy how technology is going to look 5, 10 years from now, but we know it's going to be different than it is today. My guess is we're going to be more dependent on computers and have a bigger need from IT's input. So we need to keep that in mind, and I think keep an open mind when it comes to, I had voiced this at a previous meeting where the possibility of merging the departments may be a good idea at some point down the road. In the meantime, starting Monday, with the new interim director, 2 employees instead of 3, what do we not do until we get the position filled?
Unless you guys want to volunteer to tape stuff. That is always an option. We do accept volunteers and we train. So if anybody in this room would like to learn how to run a meeting, otherwise there's going to have to be, I think, how many meetings do we tape a month?
Oh, it varies between 10 and 18.
10 and 18. Where when I first started here, we taped 1. And we had no digital component like online, no Zooms, no nothing. And our staff hasn't really increased since that point.
How long have you been employed here, Rick?
I've been here 14 years as of February 4th.
Okay.
I've been through 6 directors. The next one will be my 7th. I was here when Wade was here, so
Okay.
a long time.
What, just a suggestion, and just, if we, in the time being, hopefully only a month, maybe 2 months, if we eliminated the committee meetings.
Well, we wouldn't have to eliminate all the meetings, in my opinion, but certain ones would.
How do we pick and choose?
Well, we've been looking at our
YouTube
YouTube
analytics.
hits and our YouTube analogs, and there were several meetings where we'll get maybe 4, 3, hits, and then other meetings like county board will get significantly more. So back when there was a lull in the COVID protocols, Derek and I went through and we had picked certain ones that we were like, there's not enough public interest to justify us changing, working our schedules around to make it work. I've offered a couple suggestions in just the last week that were shot down quite quickly to help us out. But there are things we can do as long as we have the board support to get by.
We do have a policy that says
We can deny.
all of these meetings have come as a request from COVID committee, and if we don't have the resources to do it, we can deny their requests.
Yes.
And then we also have a policy that we really haven't been following that says if you're going to do something live, we need 6 weeks' notice. So sometimes we get, hey, there's a meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that, one, we get notice far in advance, so that we can plan everything else around it. Because I've been keeping track of all the extra hours I've worked since I started, and I've been here 14 months, and I've worked an extra 155 hours. So there's a lot that we do where sometimes there's a morning meeting at 9 a.m., but we're also doing a football game that night. So I get here at 8 and work until 11 p.m. just because there's so much going on and we don't have enough staff to spread it out.
For the time being, for the short term, that's not going to be as big of an issue because there are fewer community events this time of year, obviously. But I guess I need direction. When it gets to the point where stuff starts picking up again, do you want me to prioritize committee meetings or do you want me to prioritize community events? I could always, there was a time where it was 2 part-time people for like 2 years, and we basically had to tell the public, if you want a parade taped, we're gonna need you to find a volunteer. We'll teach you how to use the camera, and then we'll help you, we'll edit it, we'll get it on the air. But we could always go back to that if we had to, and then continue doing some committee meetings, but with 2 people, if one person gets sick, it's just physically not gonna be an option. And I've been told that, it's people earn sick time and vacation time, and they have a right to take it. So it's like, we can't really just say, for the next 2 months, you can't take a day off. So, but there are things we could do in the short term to help. And I have a few suggestions that I could talk to you guys about if you're interested, so.
It's my assumption that because of winter months, the community programming is not as common as it is the rest of the year. The county government committees happen regardless of the month. So I would look and suggest we consider cutting back quite a bit on the community programming until we get the position filled and then re-examine it. And that will help us with our efforts to fill the position with the most qualified person as quickly as possible. Kellen?
I would be curious to hear your thoughts, Rick. I really would like to hear them.
Well, one of the problems we have is meeting times. I had suggested that, at least for the time being, meetings ideally to help us so that we know we would have IT staff available for trouble, because we had a big mishap at the last Board of Health. There was no IT because it was held at 6. There was I can't remember, there was another meeting where it was held at 8 a.m. I had computer problems, there was no one in the building. I had to wait until 8 to even start addressing the problem. The meeting didn't start till 9. So I had suggested that meeting times, if possible, be moved between 9 a.m. start time and 3 p.m. start time. If you want it to be broadcast live and live streamed, you can still have your meeting at that time, but then just don't expect us to be able to cover it.
Yeah.
Because when we were asked to do this, well, back when John Kelly was here, we were told this was a temporary thing during lockdown. As soon as the courthouse was open, this would go away, and we would, because our normal job duties didn't go away when this happened, and we didn't get extra staff to help. So this was supposed to be a temporary thing until lockdown was over, and lockdown's been, I don't know how long the courthouse has been open.
Courthouse never closed.
Right, but I mean, the public's
remote
been
stuff,
able to
yeah.
come in for quite some time, and we've been expected to keep this up with no additional support or staff or anything, you know. It's, so.
And now it's apparent that enough people enjoy the
Right.
temporary programming
Exactly.
that
It's probably going to become a permanent
Yes.
fixture, at least for some committees. I mean, there are some committees that don't want to continue, and that's fine with us. That's up to the committee chairs and the committees themselves. It's not like we're going to try to force you to do it, but there are some committees that do want us to tape, continue taping, environment, land use, PTAD among them, and we'll continue to do that. We just ask that we have a little understanding from committee members as to like that we are, I don't know if we're the smallest department staff-wise, but we're down there. Yeah, we're at the bottom. So if something happens to one of us, get sick for 5 days, we're down to one person, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to think of it as, I don't know how many people the highway department employs, but take a third of them and have them quit at one time. And then still expect the same level of service. It's unrealistic, in my opinion.
Now, are you advocating the time limitations on meetings to be a temporary thing?
Yes, it would be a temporary thing. Until we
get the
could get
position
back
filled?
up to the having extra, full staff at least, yes. And there's a lot of times where situations that occurred where Derek was, I believe, off you had to go to a conference. There was a
Judy
meeting.
was at the conference too.
Yes, and then there was a surprise meeting that I was not told about. Until I got home at like 9 at night, and then I was told I had to get up at 5 in the morning because there was going to be a 7:30 a.m. meeting, and I didn't know about that till I got home, and so that puts a lot of pressure on us. And, but yeah, I would, especially since Derek, I don't want to embarrass him here, but in the world of WCM, he's somewhat of a legend. He is like, it's very rare in TV to find somebody with television experience, technological experience, engineering experience, all in one package, and I really doubt we're going to ever find that combo again. So I agree with you. IT is going to have to become intermeshed with us. To some degree, they may even end up having to take us over as the governing kind of body, so, which I would be fine with.
Well, I just, in going from my career where there were no computers to where we are today, that's going to continue. The advancements and the changes in the field of information technology are happening by the minute. And I believe it is almost criminal to not take advantage of the technology that's available. So I see this department becoming more and more digital, more computerized, and the need for involvement from the IT department is going to only increase. So, and that's another thing that's going to have to, we're going to have to go in baby steps and take time with that. So we can work on that. Do you think there's anything we need to take formal action on other than Rick's appointment? I would appreciate it if the people in this room and the members of this committee were able to present our discussion here, and if you feel as strongly as I do about the path we have to take, share that with other members of the county board, members of the public, The people that contact me with positive comments about television programs and the online programming, we need to encourage them to talk to their county board supervisors to present that as something they want to see continue.
I don't know, would you need to take action on accepting his recommendation about the meeting times, at least temporarily?
Sure. I'll take a motion in that regard. Meetings should be scheduled between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. until the director position is filled and that person has at least a couple of weeks on board to get their feet under them. And then we can, well, let's leave it like that. The motion is 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. until this board meets again to change it, which we can predict that to occur in, my guess would be at the April meeting. Rick?
We've already arranged for this month. We've already talked to IT, and they are going to have someone available for both the Human Services and Board of Health. So this, I'm assuming this would go into effect, give people time to know about it, but for the time being, those two meetings are, as far as I know, being covered.
But they are also on Monday and Tuesday of next week, so we had to.
Yeah, we had to make a decision and get them on board because we couldn't wait for a formal approval because, just for time reasons. But as far as if it goes like into March, April, we don't know how long this process is going to take because, sometimes it takes a long time to find somebody. But yeah, I would say that just so the committees that have, the committee, if you're in those committees, it's normal for this month, but then next month we'll have to do this. County board will be exempt. I've already talked to IT, that people, and as far as I know, they're going to try to have somebody at least on call in case there's something at county board that goes wrong. So, anyways, just thought I'd let you know that it wouldn't have to be an immediate thing.
Krista?
Would it be possible for either Derek or Rick to send out communication to either, I'm not sure if you want to send it out to full county board or all the department heads, just to be sure everybody's on the same page? I do have a COVID committee meeting tomorrow morning, and as a member of that committee, I'll be sure I inform everyone.
Okay. I would appreciate it if an informative email went to county board members and department heads.
If I know who, I'll look at it.
There's a group.
I'll look at it.
There's an email group for each.
Yes, sir.
I made that in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Can I make I'll second that. Yep. I was just gonna do a friendly amendment, but it's good as it stands.
Well, let's hear it.
Well, just to the effect, basically, they're welcome to hold their meetings anytime they choose.
Exactly.
This is when we're willing to make sure we're covering them.
Yeah.
When we're able to cover it.
Correct.
Yeah, this would be, I know that some committees, like, I'm sure Board of Health has many doctors on there.
Yeah.
I'd already emailed Beth Killian, and her response was, okay, makes sense. And I said, well, we'll see what we can do for this month. But yeah, she didn't seem to have any objections to us not doing live streaming and things like this. The comments I heard were from people not on that committee. So as far as I know, she's fine with, they'll still meet at that time because many of their committee members can't make it at these times, but she is not opposed to not having it live streamed and broadcast live, to my knowledge. She'll let me know if I misquoted her.
Yeah, I don't know if my motion stresses that. It's not that you can't have a meeting outside of those timeframes. It's that it may not get recorded if you're outside of that timeframe.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion?
I think this has potential not to be a great thing, but a good thing, because if people are seeing value in these broadcasts, and now they can't get them, it may reinforce the value the WTCO is bringing to our citizens. So it could be a potential positive in that light.
I think this is going to happen. I think the if is not the question anymore. I think the public has pretty much given board members and myself, and I'm sure Derek, enough comments where I think this is going to be a permanent part of our broadcasting going forward.
And I agree, the generations that are coming up are more in tune to technology than, let's say, my generation is, and that's only going to continue.
It reinforces our need for staffing and
And we also
Pursuing
produce
that.
stuff that doesn't end up on TV. We did, what was it, last night or the night before? We did something for the conservation speaking contest. We do a monthly 4-H news recording. And none of that ends up on TV, and most of that doesn't even end up on YouTube. So, I mean, we do a lot of stuff that doesn't even go on TV also.
Yeah, we've always had kind of a history of helping other departments, mainly because it's like, if somebody needs a video trimmed, why go through the effort of having them struggle to do it when they can run it down to me and I can do it and I can have it to them in a few minutes. We've helped the sheriff's department, we've helped a lot of other departments with just little things like that through the
So
years.
those are your daily duties?
Yes,
are gonna be there.
amongst just keeping the computers on the air and keeping programming and stuff. But, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I think the public doesn't know about because it doesn't pertain to them because it's not going out for informational purposes to TV. It's just helping out people in the courthouse. So,
You need to vote on that.
Yeah. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carried. Need to set a next meeting date.
End of the month?
I think, yeah.
24th is what we set for reviewing apps.
That was the 24th.
Yeah, and then the 4th interviews.
Is that good enough?
Do we need a regular monthly meeting scheduled?
This was your regular month.
No, I mean
The next
for
one.
March. I mean, maybe just get that on the calendar too.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be a month and a half from now probably anyway.
Is there a problem with sticking with an earlier meeting in the month, like today's the 10th?
I don't think so.
10th of March is a Thursday.
I have a meeting, a highway meeting at 7:30 that morning, so post that would work for me, but
But haven't we, in the past, been towards the end of the month, or are we thinking we
We
want
have
to do
been.
it
We
earlier?
have been towards the end of the month. Typically, we have been after the county
board,
board meeting. But
24th?
24th is fine.
24th?
24th.
March 24th.
March
24th.
24th,
Okay.
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
That's our regular meeting. And I'll have Tammy make the room
Okay.
reservation.
And number 11, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:12 a.m. Thank you, everybody. I think it was a productive meeting.